Lisa Spector, and um, I'm a couple minutes late, but here I am in Half Moon Bay, California. Gina's making herself comfortable on her dog bed, and she's stretching. So Gina, who just got out of the camera, she'll be back in her dog bed. Right? Go to your bed. Go to your bed. You see her in the curve of the piano there. Good girl. Very good girl. So when you log on, if you could tell me where you're listening from, that would be fabulous. And I'm going to go pay Gina for that good behavior, so she'll stay in her bed. Good girl. Okay. Okay. Okay, good girl. Go to your bed. Good girl. So I'm in Half Moon Bay, California, just a beautiful coastal town just south of San Francisco. And I've been doing these Facebook Lives. I think this is my fifth one. And it's been an interesting experience in performing for globally when Gina and I, my dog and I, are the only ones in the room. And very rewarding. And I keep learning about audio equipment and I keep upgrading. So if you could give me a thumbs up or a heart, if you could tell me how the sound is, that would be so helpful. I'm the only ears in the room except for Gina's. That'd be so helpful. And anything about the sound would be good. Hi, Emily, Patricia, great. Cool. So any hearts, any thumbs up sound, you can hear my voice. Just checking before I read from my memoir. That would be so helpful to know. Any floating hearts, any thumbs? And great. Okay, some hearts. Fantastic. So then I'm not going to worry about it. And I have a boom. I'm going to move that over to the piano. So tonight is very different. So last week I played music. So I have done a combination in various weeks. So I've done half left hand, half right hand. I've done some left hand and a lot of right hand, as I am going on 3 years into recovery from a very major hand injury in which I fell, broke my right hand, ended up with 7 fractures, 4 surgeries, and it's coming along. And last week I did a very demanding 2-hand program, all Chopin, including the Polonaise Fantasy and the Third Scherzo, some big works of his. And so this week's program is a little bit lighter. And my right hand, after I sent my email, some of you said, is your right hand okay? It's fine. It's doing great. I just have to be careful with it. Next week's program might be all left hand. So what happens is as I try and reach things that are awkward for it, I tend to just move my wrist in new directions. So it's more my wrist that I have to be careful. But my hand's very strong and it's doing well. So I am sharing with you a term I made up called handemic music. And handemic music is, I created, of course, during the pandemic, but it goes well back in my history. So some of you may know this. From 1997 for 14 years, so till about 2011, I owned a music school in my coastal town of Half Moon Bay, Lisa Spector's music school. I had students ranging in age. What happened, Gina? Go to your bed. Go to your bed. Good girl. I had students go to your bed. Go on. Go. Down. Good girl. I had students ranging in age from 4 to 94. Seriously? Like groups of 4-year-olds. And I had Marge, who started left piano for 45 years, came back at age 87 and took lessons till she was 94. It was great. And I had some kids that I didn't quite know how to handle. I wasn't experienced with working with ADD kids, with ADHD kids, some learning disorders, learning challenges. And so I studied principles. I went to seminars and I studied principles of how I could be more effective as a teacher, how I could use principles to help students focus, to help students calm, to do the opposite and to charge the nervous system of a tired 13-year-old boy who took his lessons right after school. And I learned some very interesting things I'm going to teach you kind of the cliff notes to tonight. Basically, I learned prescriptions of music for all those things, for calming, for focusing, and for energizing, which I call sonic caffeine. So tonight I'm going to teach you about that and how to create playlists on your own at home. So it's going to be a very program of all shorter works in which I'll be sharing those. And Before I do that, I always start my Facebook Lives with reading from my memoir I'm writing, working title being Left Hand Lemonade, A Musician's Journey from Tragedy to Triumph. And I am going to do a little bit of show and tell here. So this, I hope my mother, my 89-year-old mother, I don't know if she's on yet, she is going to be tuning in from Syracuse, New York. It's just amazing. She can get on Facebook Live and figure it out. And she made me my first dress that I wore at my first piano recital I'm going to tell you about. So this is so cute. It would be great if I could have worn it, but it didn't fit. So I'm just showing it to you. And so at the bottom of this precious dress is the printing for America the Beautiful and the staff notes for it. And I so remember wearing this, and I'm going to tell you about that. So I thought I'd do a little show and tell before I read from the memoir. So this is my first recital. Mrs. Colburn started coming to our house to teach me my first formal piano lessons when I was 7. She was tall with wavy blonde hair, a gentle demeanor, and she'd take a seat in a kitchen chair my mother placed next to the piano bench. Those 45 minutes were the highlight of my week. I couldn't wait to show off what I had learned on my own between piano lessons. Placed on the piano were my John Thompson books, The Spinning Song, and Alley Cat. We always started our 45-minute lessons with scales, hands separately at first, then together in 2 octaves, major keys, then minors. We'd then go into the John Thompson books, which I soared through quickly, eagerly wanting to get to real music. We were both getting tired of the repetitive spinning song. One day, she pulled out the music score to a piece 3 whole pages long. She played through Arpeggione and asked if I'd like to learn it for the spring recital in 3 months. I couldn't wait to dive into those notes. I'd only been taking piano lessons for about 4 months, but I learned it quickly and it was ready to perform at the recital. My mother made my recital dress, the one I just showed you, and I'll hold it up again afterwards. My mother made my recital dress, a denim blue cotton dress with a flared skirt that was decorated in red with the words, America the Beautiful, music notes, and a treble music staff replicating the famous song. When it came time for the recital, I slipped my new dress over my head, pulled up my white tights, and put on my black satin shoes, tightening the strap. I climbed into the back of our family car, a brown station wagon Rambler. Dad driving, Mom in the front passenger seat, Pam and Steve sat in the middle seat, and Gal and I were in the back seat facing the cars behind us. I was quiet during the long drive to the country. When we got to Mrs. Colburn's big house, her elderly husband introduced himself and handed me a program. I couldn't find my name anywhere. Then I turned the page. There it was, second to last. I peeked into the long room filled with row after row of chairs. In front was a big, grand, light brown piano. I had never played a piano so large, and I was mesmerized. I couldn't take my eyes off of it or think of anything else except how my hands would feel when they touched the keys. I could barely sit through all the other children's performances. I listened to Bach minuets with a lot of wrong notes. One girl, a couple years older than me with long blonde curls, played the spinning song. There were so many pauses, I wasn't sure she'd ever finish. It was a long wait before I got to play, and I could barely contain my excitement. When it was my turn, I eagerly walked up to the piano, placed my hands on the keys, and carefully placed my right foot on the damper pedal. I was always tall for my age. At 7, my feet easily touched the pedals, and I'm sure I used that pedal excessively. But the glorious sounds flowing from my fingers and out of the grand were extraordinary. When I performed, it was just me and that big piano. I was in a bubble, completely forgetting there was an audience in the room listening to my memorized version of Arpeggione. When I finished, I bashfully smiled while everyone was applauding, forgetting to bow, and I ran back to my seat next to my mom. I barely said a word to anyone at the reception. I didn't need to. It was an enormous relief realizing I didn't need my voice to speak. The arpeggione and that performance helped me find my voice. It lived in my fingers. So as you can surmise, I was surprisingly very shy. I mean, excessively shy as a child. I go into this quite a bit in this memoir about my fingers being my voice, about I didn't speak till I was 4 years old. My parents were worried something was wrong with me, so I elaborate on that. And I am so grateful to be in this room, which sometimes feels like I'm alone with my dog, and right now doesn't. So I'm glad you're on. I know there's a million things you could be doing with your time. Thank you for joining us. For those who got here late, here's one more close-up of that adorable dress that my mother made. Great. And when you log on, if you could just tell us where you're listening from, and also if you could mention, I'd be curious to know who plays a musical instrument, what the instrument is. Maybe it's piano, thanks to the hearts. What the instrument is, what you're working on if you're currently playing, and maybe, or the last piece you played, and maybe how long it's been. That would be so interesting to know. So glad you liked the memoir reading. So I am going to go into Handemic music, and I'm going to start with music for what I'm calling anti-anxiety, because give me a floating heart if you could just use something to relieve anxiety about now. I don't know, we're in our 6th or 7th week now of sheltering in place, and in California we have another month to go at least, and so give me a heart if some music that helps you with anxiety would be helpful. Great. See, lots of hearts. So I'm going to start with 2 pieces you may not know. And so what happens with music that you want for calming or for anti-anxiety, there's 2 things contrasting that happen with music. So one is music that would be for anti-anxiety, would be for passive hearing. So by passive hearing means there's a very predictable pattern. You're not searching for patterns, and I'll show you what that pattern is in this music. And then active listening is the opposite, where you're always searching for patterns, and that we'll go into more when I talk about focus music. So for anti-anxiety, there's a very predictable pattern. So in this case, it's a continuous rhythm that goes all throughout the entire piece. I'll just play the first 2 bars. So that happens throughout the entire piece, and even though it's an offbeat on the right hand, so the right hand is 1 and 2 and 1 and it's 3, sorry. It's 2. And count them 4/4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. It's really 2/4, but that's another story. So, but it's predictable. It happens throughout the piece. And also the melody is in the left hand. Lower frequencies calm our nervous system. So that does help, that it's a lower frequency. I am working on an arrangement of this for left hand only. I'll be sharing with you in a couple weeks. And then I'm going to go into a piece, another romantic piece by Karganoff, not as well-known composer, called Arabesque. The same exact thing happens. The melody is in the left hand. Lower frequencies calm us and even may slow down our heart rates. And then I have a predictable rhythmic pattern. And of course, both of these are slow tempi. So we have the Massenet melody and the Karganoff Arabesque. I just wrote the composers. I did not write I can write the whole program. I'm going to watch timing. I really want to stay to an hour, so I don't know what, I may have to cut some things. So after I'm done, I'll write in the whole program. So I'm going to start with the music for anti-anxiety, and then I'll go into music for focusing. Plays piano, great. Okay. Gets moved over. floating heart, if that calmed you down a bit, maybe relieve some anxiety, if you noticed your breath going a little bit deeper, if you maybe even your heart rate slowed down a little bit, lots of hearts, great. So I am not going to keep you there because I want you to stay awake. But we're going to go into an arc tonight, lots of flowing hearts. I love it. Those are my applause. And quite honestly, if you were in the room, applause would break that mood I've created. So the floating hearts really do well. And I'm going to move this over. So I think Trudy Spector, my mom, is on. Thanks, Elizabeth, for saying hi to her. And let's put this over here. So I'm going into music for focus. So that's also been a challenge for me, for so many people during this time where we're so distracted with the news and so much going on and every day changes. And it's so important to really have tools in your life to help you stay focused. I use music all the time to help me focus. When I'm sitting in my chair, when I'm writing, whether it's my memoir or a blog or a marketing email or whatever it is, music helps me so much retain my focus. And it's very simple tools that I'm going to teach you a little bit of the cliff notes to know tonight and how to do that. I tend to listen in the morning time when I'm working. I tend to listen to a lot of Baroque music, some music written in the early 1700s and up to the mid 1700s. That's written by Bach, Scarlatti, and Vivaldi. So I'm going to play some Bach for you. So unlike the first pieces that I played, where there was a very predictable pattern, this is going to have some things that the patterns aren't as predictable. Even though the rhythm in this very famous C major prelude is predictable, it's all 16th notes, you've probably heard it before, the harmony changes are frequent. So every bar or every two bars, the harmony is changing. So that causes you to go into active listening, which really helps you focus. And then in the second prelude, I'm going to play the E major prelude, both from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Book 1 of Bach. The E major has a lot of ornaments. So an ornament is a decoration, but it causes you to kind of be alert. So an ornament could be anything from a mordent, which is 3 notes, to a longer trill. And it causes you to focus and to kind of go into alert mode. Before I go on with that, I also want to share with you that this is not one size fits all. Even though there's some research on this, I have found so many people that they like the anti-anxiety music for actually studying to, for focusing. It makes me sleepy, but other people, it depends on what your kind of nervous system needs. So it is a little bit of experiment. So it's not like one size fits all, but this is a general category of this next 2 pieces where Bach would help you focus. So the C major prelude, the first prelude from Book 1. So when I say Book 1, there's Bach, J.S. Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, wrote 48 preludes and fugues. And the preludes were simply pieces that went before the fugues. I'm just playing the preludes tonight. And he wrote, the first one is in C major, the second one is in C minor, C major, C minor, third one is in C sharp major, fourth one is in C sharp minor, fifth one is in D major, sixth is D minor, going up to E flat, so then we end up with number 9 is the E major. So starting with number 1, so those are all half step, which is the smallest step you can take chromatically on a piano. And also the tempos are slightly faster, obviously, than the anti-anxiety music. It's not real fast, but it is slightly faster to keep your nervous system focused. you. So hopefully that, I'd love to get some feedback. Did you feel like that's something that would help you focus? And any hearts on that? Great. So what I'm going to do, I started to say, I'm going to take you through an arc where I'm going to bring you into music for creativity, and then music for energizing, for what I call sonic caffeine, and then I'm going to take you back down into back towards the anti-anxiety music, so that I'll end on that. So music for creativity is my own creation. I just made this up. So I have, since my 89-year-old mother, Trudy, I think, is listening, and she still paints. She just finished this beautiful painting of a ballerina. It's her first ballerina. It's so great. And she often listens to my music when she's painting. Other writers that I'm in class with tell me that they write while they're listening to this music. I have a creativity playlist that's chamber music on my Apple playlist that when I really need to sit down and get creative, when I need to write a blog post, something that's really creative, that's what I used for my own purposes for creativity. So I made this up, and my criteria is beautiful melodies with a combination of music for focusing along with long lyrical lines, and music that you may recognize, you may not, but it's more about the beauty of it. It's just long phrases, and it shapes, and it moves along. It's not really fast, and it's not really slow. And it could be music also for focusing, but it kind of just music that really gets my creativity juices going. So you can tell me if this does this for you. So I am going to play the Schubert Serenade, which you may have heard for voice and for cello and for violin and for piano. Every instrumentalist plays it. It's a very famous piece. So one of the things that can, not always, but can cause a little bit of tension in a good way for piano music is 2 against 3. When you're playing 3 notes in your right hand to 2 notes in your left, or vice versa, like you are here. So I have my left hand. These are 8th notes, triplets. So it has a little bit of a pull. So when I really want to inspire my creativity, I want to stretch my mind. I want to have things in my environment that help keep me focused, but also cause me to really go a little bit outside of my comfort zone. So that's how I pick creativity music. So I'm going to do the Schubert Serenade and the Debussy Reverie, which is an all-time favorite as well. Enjoy. maybe give me some hearts if you found that music possibly might inspire creativity. And the great thing about Facebook Live is that you'll have this all week, so you could experiment with it. You could go back while you're working, while you're painting, while you're trying to be cooking, while you're trying to be creative, and put on this music and see. So I just have to check the time. Give me 1 second. It's, oh my God, this time goes by so fast. Okay, so I am going to go into music, what I call sonic caffeine. Thank you for all the hearts. Love it. Thank you. So what I call sonic caffeine is music for, it's my 4 in the afternoon when I go to pour myself a cup of Earl Grey black tea and have a bite of dark, usually 100% cacao chocolate. Thank you, Go To Chocolate. I think they're listening too. That was my chocolate today. And with my Earl Grey tea with almond milk. It's when I just am tired, I need something to pick me up, and music can do that too. So that's when I'll put on music for energizing. So this is where you want a lot of pattern interrupts. You want to go into complete active listening, where you can still focus on something else, but there's no predictable pattern. So it's passive listening. There's no predictable patterns, and there's things that some dynamic changes, and it's usually faster, and some things that take it out of, it interrupts your pattern so that it causes a lot of energy. So I am going to do 2 of these. I'm going to play the last movement of the D major Haydn sonata, and it also has a lot of turns and ornaments and trills that I talked about at the beginning, and a lot of short sections, a lot of with repetition, a lot of short phrases, and a lot of rests. Speaking of rest, the king of rest, of course, is Beethoven. So I'm going to go then into the C minor, an early Beethoven sonata, Opus 10, number 1, the last movement. And you know what makes Beethoven there's so many things that make him so great, but his rests are incredible. When we think of the opening of the Fifth Symphony, maybe the famous tune ever, most famous melody written, it's only 4 notes. It's the rests in between the notes that really cause the energy, and that's the same thing with this. Also C minor, number 5, sonata instead of symphony. You might hear hints of his Beethoven Fifth Symphony, which came a little bit later, in this as well. So the Haydn D major last movement and the Beethoven C minor last movement for energy, for sonic caffeine. that cause you to wake up a bit, and I'm not going to leave you there, but maybe give me a couple floating hearts or some thumbs up if that did energize you and you felt like it was sonic caffeine. And I'm going to point out, so hopefully some of you heard this, the kind of teasing, which is also C minor in Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. This is Beethoven's Fifth Sonata. He's allowed to steal from himself. I think it's totally legit. So I'm going to check the time again, and it's 6:52. Okay, so I am going to. I want to do both. Okay. I'm going to do one of I have to do this. This is so beautiful. A beautiful piece for creativity. So I talked about that on the way up the curve. The Brahms waltz, it's just so beautiful. I do it a little bit of a slower tempo, and again, it's my own terminology, music for creativity, music that has long lines, beautiful lyrical phrases, sometimes famous melodies, in this case it is, but it doesn't have to be. And so I'll do that, and then I'm going to close you with two very, very anti-anxiety Schumann pieces. The other way I would categorize music for creativity is timeless music, where the melodies, even if they're famous, they've been played on so many different instruments, and music that personally I never get tired of. So I'm going, thank you for the hearts. I just love that. The other thing I'll mention is, hopefully it's not obvious, but there's some adaptive piano going on. I talked about this last week with my right hand recovering. There's some basic things I can't reach, like the ending of that, and there are quite a few sections in the Beethoven. I had to leave out some notes, and it goes along with my motto I've been living for almost 3 years now, which is just screw perfect and make music. So I get to do that and share that with you. So I'm going to close the program, but please stay to the very end because I've got a surprise for you after I play this. So two beautiful pieces of Schumann. So Schumann, Romantic composer, the 1800s, and just wrote so much of his piano music actually when he was younger. And then he had a really bad hand injury because he put weight. So this finger that I'm struggling with to recover and get range of motion on, he put weights on that finger and it damaged him forever in terms of his concert pianist career, but he then became a very fabulous composer and wrote orchestra and chamber music, most gorgeous piano quintet and quartet, but wrote a lot of his piano music early on. And so this is something he wrote. It's the children's suite, so it's Kinderscenen, and scenes. It's called Scenes from Childhood. They're very short movements, which Schumann was famous for. Very short sections of a larger work, where each one is titled, has a different title. And I'm going to play the first one and the second to last one. The first one is Of Foreign Lands and People, and the last one I thought would be appropriate to end the music part of the program with, which is, I don't speak German, so the English translation is Child Slumbering. So hopefully, I don't know what time it is in your neck of the woods. If you're on the East Coast, you're probably close to bedtime, and here in California, we're about an hour away from sunset. So hopefully this will leave you in a very calming, anti-anxiety mood, and stay tuned for something I'm going to introduce after the music, but the Schumann two movements from Kinderscenen. Thank you. Love to see some hearts if that caused anti-anxiety. Thank you for those hearts. And okay, we're just about an hour as I started a few minutes late. Thank you again for being with us tonight. Thanks for the hearts. I love it. It feeds my soul. And I know there's a million things you could be doing with your time, and I really appreciate you logging in. Please share this. Even though I'm not getting a lot of hits live, it gets up to like 1,000 views by the end of the week, and that's because of you. So the more you share it, the more you can actually go back and create watch parties even, tomorrow or Monday or whenever. And even during your work week, if you want to help people focus, would be great. I'm still considering putting more music for focusing on YouTube Live. So if you could actually post a comment so I know who it's coming from, would be great on that. And okay, so I'm going to share a secret that I've never stated publicly. Only a handful of people in my life know, and I'm just, what the heck. So a year and a half ago, I applied to a job. I saw a job opening on LinkedIn at Apple. I'm a huge Apple fan. At Apple for classical music curator. And I looked at the job description and I just thought it had my name on it. I hadn't put together a resume in decades, had help putting together a resume, even had a connection to get it through the door at Apple, and thought for sure not only I had the job, but not only did I not get the job, I didn't get an interview. I didn't even get a call for a classical music curator. I have so many ideas for Apple, for their classical music department, of things that they could do to improve. And the thing is, I don't need to wait for Apple. I can curate music. I do it in my sleep. I love to do it. I do it for my friends. So I'm going to offer you a chance to have a personalized classical music playlist curated for you. So by personalized, what I mean is, if you like piano music, if you like cello music, you like chamber music, I'm not as good with vocals, opera. I mean, I'm a huge opera fan. I'm just not quite as knowledgeable. But let's keep it to instrumental classical music. I can go into any area if you like guitar music, whatever it is. And you want a playlist for focusing. You want a playlist for anti-anxiety. It's not going to be me. It might be a little bit of my music, but I'm going to go into other music. So I am accepting tips, and my PayPal link is in the event description. So with every $20 tip that comes in tonight by midnight California time, so Pacific time, so I tentatively got 5 hours. By every $20 tip that comes in, I will curate a classical playlist for you. So if you want two, let's say you want one for creativity and you want one for focus, then it's $40. So it's $20 a playlist. I love to do this. The only criteria is it has to be classical, instrumental music, and you have to have Apple Music or Spotify. I don't work with Amazon and Pandora. My music is on there, and both have Lisa Spector Radio, but I use Apple Music mostly, and I also have a Spotify account. So if you're interested in that, maybe you can post a comment. And again, with any $20 tip that comes in tonight by midnight, I will curate a personalized playlist, and you tell me what you want. Do you want guitar music for calming? You want violin music for sonic caffeine? So whatever your needs are. And it'd be so curious to know what your needs are in that area. So I will be back next week, and I'll get the camera on Gina. I'll wake her up. That made her pretty calm. So I'll wake her up in a second, and I'll be back next week. I think I'm going to be doing the opposite next week. So next week might be my program of all left-hand music, like 100% left-hand music. And in 2 weeks, I have a program that's just very unique. I can't wait to share with you. It's very exciting. And I really appreciate your support. It's been so great. And please be well, stay calm, and let's get the camera on Gina, although she's not. She's snoozing. I think I'll let her snooze. So I took her to the beach today around 1 o'clock. And I'm not going to wake her up now, but I'm also working on some special tricks with her that are music related, that are really fun, and she's got it down. I just got to get it on camera. So we will be introducing those probably in 2 weeks when it's very appropriate, and because there's a dog theme to that event. And be safe, be well. Again, thank you so much for sharing this, for getting the word out there about my Left Hand Lemonade Lives. I've so enjoyed this time with you, and I'm honored, and thank you.